Woo! Welcome,
Welcome, ladies.
everyone.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, woo! Welcome, everybody. Go ahead, go for it.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a journey into the darkest corners of the human psyche. This is Fractured Justice, where we delve into the most chilling and perplexing true crime cases that have shocked and captivated the nation. I'm your host, Sean DeMarco, and as always with me is.
Melanie Lightbeam, also known as Malfortuna.
And each week we'll peel back the layers of a different case, examining the twists and turns, the clues and the mysteries, and the devastating impact on the victims and their loved ones. But this isn't just about morbid fascination or lurid details. By shining a light on these dark deeds, we honor the memories of those lost and remind ourselves of the fragility of life and the importance of pursuing justice. Because as much as we may wish to look away, we must confront the shadows that lurk within the human soul. This is Fractured Justice.
And I think that's the best question is in each of these cases, has justice been fractured? Has justice been served? Or is it just an accidental atrocity that happened to each individual person? And I have a plethora of cases right now to introduce to you.
Oh, you do? What's our first
Yes.
case tonight?
The first case, now, when I first saw this, I legitimately thought it was a joke. And I will even say, my initial source was the Bro Bible. Yes, I was reading Bro Bible. It's a website, if you want. And that's exactly the sign that he had when I told him about this case. He's like, find reputable sources. And of course, you can read about it all over the reputable sources. He doesn't like my alternative off the beat ones. But the case is Tony Cake's 86-year-old pedestrian was decapitated by a DOT, Department of Transportation truck. And what's special about Tony Cakes is he was part of the Genovese crime family. Now, right off the bat, I thought that was a joke. I legitimately thought that was a joke. I'm like, that's something that had to be like, in my mind, I thought it was a hit. But
yeah, it sounds like it.
It to me, it sounded like they were trying to get rid of him. But let me bring it up and I'll show you a picture of Tony Cakes because he has a very interesting little story, I guess, if you want to say. So here's Anthony Congliaro. Did it come up? I just want to make sure. Okay. He's known as Tony Cakes, Tony the Dessert Man, also known as Tony Cheesecake. And what happened was he was just walking down the street, minding his own business, when he was struck by a Department of Transportation city truck, instantly killing him and decapitating him. And it was said that his severed head, was found yards away from his body. This happened on June. Oh, go ahead.
If he was decapitated by a truck, how did his head end up yards away?
Because it rolled away. It's like he hit it and it popped off and rolled away. Where else is it going to be? What is it going to be attached to him if he's decapitated? It popped off. It was severed. It's not going to float up in the air.
It just seems like it might have been severed before he got hit. I don't know. It sounds too weird.
Oh, see? Valerie's in the house. Hello, Valerie. And the first thing she says, it was a hit. That's what I thought. And I mean, the question is, was justice served in a sort of karmic way when it comes to Tony Cakes? Because let's look at some information about him. And I could go on to case studies about him. So he died on June 12th by an accidental hit by a city truck. Before his death, he lived in Bay Ridge. Now, I actually, for a very short, well, I shouldn't say for a short time, but for 9 years, I was practically living in Bay Ridge. Beautiful, beautiful area in Brooklyn. It's right underneath the Verrazano Bridge. Very beautiful So that's where he lived. So I know exactly his route where he was walking. And I almost want to say, how do you get run over by a truck in that area? Because traffic patterns and driving, you're not really going that fast. It's a very busy, bustling area where pedestrians are always jaywalking. Pedestrians are always walking around. But in this case, the truck plowed right into him and severed. And so I almost feel like, did this actually happen, or is there more to the story that we're not hearing? Because you're right. How does the head end up yards away?
Especially if the vehicle is slow moving and he's an old man. And
Yes, he's 86 years old. He was an old man. But what made him famous is back in 2005, he was accused of I'm sorry, he was a soldier for the Genovese crime family. He also worked as a loan shark for the crime family as well. And in a 4-count indictment, the Fed said that he pled guilty to racketeering conspiracy charge. He received a 13-month sentence, the court records say. He was also arrested in 1999 for criminal usury and 2006 for grand larceny. So he's been in and out of the justice system going way back from 1999 and possibly even earlier than that. But where he got the name was he used to run an Italian ice and gelato stand in Little Italy. And he would sell wholesale cakes to the business districts. So that's how he was determined the name Tony Cakes. They originally called him Tony Cheesecake. And then he went to Tony the Dessert Man, and then they called him Tony Cakes for short. But from what people were saying, he was a beloved old man, kind, warm-hearted. In fact, a lot of the people who were interviewing in his building where he lived, they didn't even know that he was part of the crime family at all. They had no idea that he was a former mobster and that the history. So once again, the question was, is this legitimately an accident? Or was there something more sinister and more to the story?
a good question.
And if you think about, like I said, the whole karma thing, has justice been served? Did he get back because of his doings? Or has justice been fractured in this case?
I'm not sure. What do the viewers think?
Good question. We're throwing that out there. If anybody's out there, put it in the chat. If you're watching the show after the fact, definitely put it in the comments. We would love to hear, what do you think about the case of Tony Cakes, his decapitation from a Department of Transportation city truck that ran him over as a pedestrian, severed his head, and instantly killed him. And he has the history of being a former mobster with the Genovese crime family. Very interesting. So I guess that's my first interesting story.
I wonder how much his family is getting for that collision.
You bring up a very good point. Now, this is how my mind works. My mind works a little different because I was thinking, okay, he's 86 years old. What if he knew he was at the end of his life? Maybe he might have had a serious illness or something like that. With this type of, quote, accident, his family is going to get a huge settlement. I mean, no question about it. I mean, that could be, is that a motivation of what happened? Could that be the case?
Possible. Anything's possible.
Yeah. Now, I do have pictures. I'll share this again. I'll show you the pictures of the accident, and I'll show you a picture of the poor DOJ driver in this case. So, I put DOT driver. He is, you can see right here, he's very upset. There's footage from cameras that actually showed how the head was severed from his crumpled body. And the city truck driver said that he was walking against a traffic light to cross the street. Like I said, in this particular area, people do that all the time. And I mean, traffic is not a fast moving thing. So I'm very, very surprised that something like that happened, particularly in that area. Now, here's an image of what happened. His head was found yards away from the body. So basically, the police just put a tiny little sheet right over the severed head. In fact, his body is not even in this picture, but that yellow truck was the truck that struck him, and then his head rolled away. But still, how fast do you have to be going in order to decapitate somebody's head? I mean, is
I
that?
wonder if you have to go slower because he's elderly.
I have no
Sorry,
idea.
that's morbid as hell.
You
But
think you think the slower it is, the quicker it is to. Now,
no,
Valerie said he ratted out his fellow criminals and they got him. That's possibly the case. That could be the case too, that he was a snitch. And but I just find it strange, of all the accidents to happen, it was a city truck to do it. And particularly, like I said, when it comes to city trucks, they are not speeding. They are not necessarily going fast. This area, they're not really going fast at all. And if you notice, he's not too far from the crosswalk. So even if he was jaywalking, they wouldn't have been going that fast from where the stoplight is, even if it was a green light. Because almost in that area, you need to stop at every single light. That's how congested that area is. So it's almost like every stop you're stopping. So she says maybe it was done beforehand. Possibly. Good question. But it leads the question, was justice served? Was justice fractured in this case?
I don't know, but it sort of makes me want to see that footage to see what we're missing from this scenario.
Right. And the fact is they do have they didn't release the camera footage obviously or anything like that, but they said that there is footage of his head rolling down the street. And that's pretty horrific. That is horrific. So that is case number 1. And I don't know whether to give that, like, I don't know, justice served, accident, karma, tragedy.
Well, either way, justice was served and we'll never know.
Yeah. So that it's a closed case, because what's going to happen is it was deemed an accident. No, I mean, I don't know if anything's going to happen to the driver. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to go through the normal hoops, checking his toxicology, that sort of thing, to see if he was under any influence. But as a DOT, I don't really think anything's going to happen to him, because he is a city worker. He may get laid. He may or may not get laid off from his position, but I really don't think anything's going to happen. As far as a criminal,
he's a driver for them any longer.
Right. I think that's what they're simply going to do, let him go. But I don't think he's going to be charged with anything for this. But that's left unknown. This just happened, so it is unknown what is going to happen with that driver. So I guess this brings us to case number 2. Now, this one is actually an old case. And the only reason I'm bringing this up, because the settlement of the case just happened 2 days ago. Okay, so this case originally happened in 2016. So it took from 2016 all the way till a couple of days ago to get this case settled. And I think this is an interesting thing. So I'm going to read this to you. A woman was sexually assaulted by her therapist, who told her that his penis absorbs trauma, and she was awarded 217,000 pounds. Now, bear in mind, this did happen in the United Kingdom. So it is an overseas story, but I wanted to bring it to attention because there's some interesting facts about this particular case, which makes it something to talk about. So the first thing right off the bat is the length of time. You're shaking your head.
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on the man with the magic penis.
Okay,
What the hell?
so according to court documents, the man with the magic penis. All right, so the woman's name was Ella Janae, 37 years old. Her therapist, Michael Lusada, she sued her back in 2016 because of an incident which involved 10 minutes of penetration in his clinic in August of 2016. Now, here's where the thing gets interesting. She tried to press criminal charges against him, and they didn't find any grounds to pursue criminal charges. So this 217,000 that she won was actually part of a personal civil claim, and it took that long for the civil claim to go out of court. But she did it because she wanted to bring it to attention that he's a serial assaulter. Now, Michael even admitted that this is his form of therapy, that his penis has power and it's a laser beam. And this is court documents. He's quoting that it is a laser beam for therapy. And he admitted that he did this to at least 40 different patients. He admitted that. However, the courts found that there was no criminal misconduct in this case, even though he admitted he did this to 40 different patients. This woman sues him on a civil level, and she finally won. And she finally got the settlement. And she's hoping that, being that this settlement was awarded, that it would bring out other victims of this atrocity. Question is, who is more sick, him or her? Now, see, that's the thing. The fact is, she went for therapy. She had past trauma. She trusted her therapist. She was looking for a way because she was getting panic attacks. And that was one of the things that the judge in the court case deemed, that because she said that she couldn't fight back because she had a panic attack, that's why she didn't fight back during the 10-minute sexual assault. So the judge said that it is valid that because you had a panic attack, you were not in the right frame of mind or in the right sense that you can. So, in other words, the judge was saying, yes, he did sexually assault you, and that's why she sided with the victim in this case. But even with an admittance that Michael Lusada said, I've done this to 40 patients, and this is my form of therapy, it makes you wonder, and that question right there, who is more sick, him or them? Because patients obviously continue to go back for these therapy sessions.
That's really twisted. And I don't think that would fly very long in the States. I'm wondering what the laws are in the UK that allow him to get away with that.
And see, that's just it. I don't know what the loophole was as to why they never criminally prosecuted for them, even with him admitting, unless that has to do with alternative forms of therapy. Because, I mean, there have been case studies, even here in the States, where they would do experimentations using sexual encounters to see how people responded. And I mean, one of them, and this is just an interesting little tidbit, is the discovery of MDMA, which is Molly. That was originally used as a quote lover's drug for marital counseling back in the 60s. They would use that when couples were having problem and they went to the therapist, they would give them Molly, MDMA, and it would, which of course now is completely legal and people use it as ecstasy and street drugs and stuff like that, which I read an article the other day, they're trying to bring it back and legalize it. I don't think that's going to happen, but they want to bring it back as a sexual
It'll happen
dysfunction drugs.
just as soon as they legalize cannabis.
Yeah, they're working on it. It's going to take a long time. It is going to take a long time.
I'm holding my breath.
But I mean, think about it. You're going to a therapist. You need help. And who knows what you're going for? Maybe you are going for sexual trauma. Maybe you are going for depression, anxiety, social issues. And what's the first thing your therapist is going to say? My penis is a laser beam that will bring you to, I don't know.
If your dick is shooting lasers, point it somewhere else, buddy.
It's like may the force be with you.
What the hell?
He's giving those Jedi moments through his penis. So I brought this up as fractured justice because I want to know what your opinions on this is, because there's multiple victims, although only one has come forward, even though he admitted that he's done this to 40 patients. Only one has come forward. She won a monetary allotment, £217,000, which, judging since this case went all the way back since 2016, we're talking 8 years. So that's basically 8 years of like lawyers' fees and fighting and all that stuff that they're probably going to take right off the bat. Is it really worth it? The trauma and pain and suffering that she has went through to go through all this?
I don't know. And I'm wondering how many other people are going to come forward now that she's won this case.
And that's what she's hoping for. That's one of the things she said at the close of the case. And I'll actually bring them up so you can see what they look like.
How many people he's done this to since it all started.
So let's bring them up. Share screen. Okay, so right here, Ella Janae, 37 years old. Her therapist, Michael Losada, whose penis is the laser beam that is going to bring her to a cure and rehabilitation. And he says that his method is a valid form of therapy. Bam, bam, they both got something out of it.
I mean, she got a good payout, but I'm not sure it was worth it.
But here's the interesting thing. And I mean, all right, let's take it from that. What about the patients who did that, who really wanted it? It's an escape from, like, maybe they're not having a happy marriage. Maybe they're escaping out from reality. They go to a therapist, and even though it's a vulnerable situation, and I know you can't necessarily consent to sexual assault, but what if they love this form of therapy and wanted this form of therapy, and that's why they continue to keep going and going?
Isn't that just crossing the line, though? A breach of trust between patient and doctor?
Absolutely, it is. But if that's the only way that possibly they can get the release that they need, and I mean, okay, how is this any different from, say, a cult leader who will manipulate his congregation?
It's really not. And I don't want to be inflammatory here, but the guy kind of resembles a cult leader. If you look at that image right there, that's the first thing that popped into my head.
And I mean, the one thing, there's a great documentary on Netflix that teaches you how to be a cult leader. That's the name of the documentary, How to Be a Cult Leader. Oh, he's holding his But it talks about how cult leaders have that charismatic nature. They have their helpful, nurturing, soft-spoken, kind. Like, you get drawn into the fact that they're helpful and they care about you and you feel special. And I mean, that's a manipulatory tactic that he's using to prey on people who are broken to begin with. I mean, they're going for therapy for a reason, There is a reason that they're going for therapy. And here he is taking in. How is it any different than going to a prostitute? Possibly. I mean, the only difference is this breaches, like Sean said, the doctor patient relationship.
I mean, you're giving them power and trust over you in the hopes that they're going to help you and give you the tools to handle the issues that you're facing. And instead, they're using that against you to get you in bed. I think that's where it's different. It's manipulation versus outwardly seeking someone to copulate with.
True.
That's just me. I could be wrong.
No, I agree with that. But in a sense, that's what could be a reason why more people never came forward. And I mean, there's always that question, and I don't want this to sound bad, but so many times victims of sexual assault will never come forward. And I almost feel like, as a society point of view, it's how we treat the victims compared to, and I mean, do victims really want to relive that experience over and over and over just to get the justice they need?
Of course they don't.
And that's why so many cases end up not being brought to light, because they would rather forget and move on than to constantly be reminded. And then the worst part is, imagine going through everything you have to do when you do this case, only to find out that for whatever, whether it's a technicality, not enough evidence, this or that, only to find out he's going to walk free anyway. Nothing's going to be done to him. And as sad as a society we are here in the States, you actually get less time for that kind of crime. You really don't get that much time for sexually assaulting compared to what people should get. And that's just, but
I was just thinking about the amount of money that they were paying versus how much they would have to pay a prostitute as well. Because therapy is not cheap.
insurance covers a lot of it. I'm not too sure if in the UK, do they have free, is it like Canada where it's universal healthcare?
I'm really not sure.
I'm not too sure either. Because the question is, if it's universal healthcare, are the sessions free to begin with?
Somebody's paying for it somehow.
Taxpayers. But I don't know. I don't quote me on that. I don't know how the health system. But I do know here in the States, basically, once you meet your deductible with your insurance company, whatever your deductible is, you could go to therapy for free. You
So
just
then
have to
it's
meet your deductible.
federally funded sexual assault. That's twisted.
God. Can we even say that? Federally funded.
Is
Yeah.
that not what you just described? If it's universal health care?
That's exactly what I described. It is. I'm just saying how awful that is.
I'm sorry about the movement in the background. My dogs are not staying still.
Aw, they're okay. They're cute babies. They really are. All right. So the question is, in this case, was it fractured justice? Was justice served? She won a settlement,
She did win a settlement.
but
I'm
he
not
never.
sure it was entirely served because he was found not guilty for criminal charges.
Right.
And that seems pretty criminal to me.
Particularly for him admitting it. He in the court papers, he said he's done this to 40 different women, and this is a legitimate form of therapy. That's what he's swearing by. And it makes me wonder if there's alternate therapy rules that are different. I mean, did she have to, maybe she had to sign a disclaimer that says that there's alternate forms of therapy that we were using, and did she somehow consent, and that's why he never got charged for it? I really don't know.
If she had signed something to consent to it, then she wouldn't have gotten the money. Let's be clear on that. Signing a contract of consent would have meant totally that she wouldn't have gotten any money.
Right.
So
I just think it's I mean, I almost want to say, and this is bad of me to say, sometimes I read these headlines and I feel like the truth is sometimes more bizarre than anything you can imagine. I mean, just me reading the stories that I'm reading, the truth is more horrendous than making stuff up. And these are actual stories, and that's why I'm bringing different aspects of different types of stories, and we're going to introduce to the show, and we hope that you like this type of content.
And if you do, let us know so we can make more of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and particularly double check just to make sure that you are subscribed and hit the little bell and make sure you have all notifications on, because every time we do go live, it will be posted. So, how about we go to the next story? All right. So, this one is a sensitive topic considering what's been going on with war and overseas. So, this woman is accused of attempting to drown a 3-year-old Muslim child in a possible hate crime incident. Okay, so that's why I said this could be a sensitive thing. So, what it is on May 19th, Elizabeth Wolf, age 42, was charged with attempted capital murder and injury to a child after trying to drown a 3-year-old child in an apartment complex pool and making racist statements while she was intoxicated. The victim's mother told police that Wolf started questioning her as to where she's from and if the 2 children playing in the pool were hers. The mother was visibly Muslim. She wore a hijab and an Islamic headscarf and modest swimwear, according to the council. When the mother answered her, she stated that Wolf grabbed her 6-year-old son and but she pulled him away from Elizabeth's grasp. She ended up scratching him on his finger. She then grabbed the 3-year-old daughter and forced her underwater. The mother was able to pull her 3-year-old out of the water, and the daughter was yelling for help and was coughing up water. And the paramedics deemed that both child, the 3-year-old and the 6-year-old, were okay, that there was no major injuries. So now this brings up a lot of incidents of hatred, of religious persecution.
So what ended up happening to the perpetrator? Was she arrested?
Yes. Hold on. Yes, she was arrested and she's being sorry, I lost my page. Yes, she was arrested and she is being tried as a hate crime. They're looking into this, and this happened on May 19th. So the children are fine. She's on bail for the bond for her was $25,000 for capital murder and $15,000 for the injury to a child. She did post the bond, so she is out of jail right now until her trial. And Texas Republican Salman Bojani said that he's shocked and appalled by this alleged racist Islamophobic occurrence that took place in his old town. And this was done in Euless, Texas. And he said hate has no place in Euless, District 92, or anywhere in our great state. So this was a Texas hate crime. And as of right now, it hasn't gone to court yet on what the case is, but Elizabeth Wolf is out on bond after this incident. And it is being tried as a hate crime. The Texas chapter of American Islamic Relations with the Muslim and Palestinian are calling out to state and federal law enforcement to investigate this incident. So as of right now, it's still pending. It's still under investigation. And the question is, how far is it going to go? I mean, with the nature of what's going on, this could be a political type of case that will be in the spotlight once it starts going to trial.
That's pretty likely,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't change the fact that you can't just go around trying to drown people's kids because you don't agree with what they believe in.
Absolutely.
That's...
And I mean, that's scary. This is a 3-year-old we're talking about, like a little toddler, and you're going to dunk them in the water and hold their head down. And she tried to grab the 6-year-old as well. But I mean, okay, obviously innocent until proven guilty. She was arrested for this. She was given a bond. It hasn't gone to court yet. So it's still going to be a work in progress with this case. But at the same time, she was intoxicated and drunk. And I almost wonder, are there any specific allowances if people do things when they're drunk and intoxicated that gives them, I don't know, either a lighter sentence or a more serious sentence?
I'm sure they'll try to use that as a defense. I don't know how well it's going to fly.
Right. But she clearly was intoxicated at the time of her arrest.
And neither of us are lawyers, so we
don't know
can't say that.
We don't know what's going to, right. Well, I mean, that's what the report stated. The police report stated she was intoxicated at the time of the arrest. So, but that is just, so this is a pending case, and we'll find out whether justice is going to be fractured or not. But I do believe that it's going to be a highly political case.
Well, let's come back to this when it does finalize.
Valerie says definitely a hate crime.
Well, I don't know how else you would see it.
Well, I have another case that's interesting with the hate crime, but they still have yet to call it a hate crime. But I mean, I would call it, but that's going to be a little later on. Actually, no,
That's
it's the next case. It's the next case. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
So that's foreboding.
Okay, so this one we could talk a lot about because this one is really, it's the case of Bianca Ellis. She was in a Giant Eagle grocery store brandishing a knife, and there's video footage of her just carrying a knife in the store. And what does she do? She follows a mother and a son who's leaving the grocery store, and just before they get to the car, she just goes up to them and starts stabbing them, killing the 3-year-old boy.
What?
Yes, in the grocery store. Now, let's show pictures because the case gets even worse. The first thing is she went to the thrift store directly next to the grocery store. So there was a thrift store. That's where she got the knife. Now, it didn't necessarily say whether she stole the knife or whether she paid for the knife. It simply says that she got the knife from a thrift store. Now, I will say this. I go to thrift stores all the time. When it comes to knives, they just leave the knives out in the open. I don't understand why they do that. I'm surprised they don't wrap them up or do something or hide them. But every thrift store I ever went to, knives are literally just thrown on the shelves. So, like I said, it was not specified whether she stole a knife but it says she got the knife from the thrift store. She's walking around and she's just waving it around. And then finally, the mother and son leave. She follows them out to the car and starts stabbing them. And then multiple 911 calls because people are like on the phone with 911 saying that this kid's been stabbed. The kid gets sent to the hospital, but he does pass away at the hospital. The mother is going to be making a full recovery. She gets arrested later on with the knife still in hand. So she still has the bloody knife. She's still carrying the hand. There was no incident with her arrest. What happens, though, is her pretrial hearing. Now, she already had the pretrial hearing where they're supposed to run the charges that are against her. At the pretrial hearing, she's cracking up laughing, thinking it's the funniest thing that ever happened. She's showing absolutely no remorse. She's not answering the judge's questions at all. She's speaking other languages when the judge starts questioning her. She's holding her head, she's laughing, and she's making a total mockery out of the court. So that's where we are on the case right now. So let's pull her up because, like I said, this is a pretty horrific case. Now, I would call this a hate crime. I really would seriously call this a hate crime, but they're not deeming it a hate crime. And I find that very interesting that it's not deemed a hate crime. But okay, let me. Okay, share screen. All right, so this is Bianca Ellis with her lawyer right here. And you can see she's literally cracking up laughing. And there's multiple shots. I mean, you can actually watch because the whole thing was televised. You can watch the judges asking her questions, and she'll be like, "See," and the judge's like, "See." What does "see" mean? Meaning yes in Spanish. But so she's being charged. She's 33-year-old Bianca Ellis. She's accused of killing 3-year-old Julian Wood in a double stabbing outside the Giant Eagle in North Olmsted. She's held on a $5 million bond, which she didn't pull. She's actually staying in jail right now. She has 1 count of aggravated murder, 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of felonious assault, 1 count of endangering a child, 1 count of tampering with evidence, and 1 count of misdemeanor theft. Now, I find that 1 count of misdemeanor theft interesting because I'm going to assume she stole the knife. I don't know what the misdemeanor theft is for, but somewhere along the line, she stole something. Part of me is thinking she may have stole the knife. I don't know. So don't quote me on that because there's no information as far as what the misdemeanor item that she stole is. She could have stole something from the grocery store. We don't know. Sorry, I lost my page. All right, so this just happened Monday, June 3rd. They were stabbed in the parking lot on Eagle Road. When officers responded to the situation, they found the suspect walking towards the Dover Center Road holding the knife. She was taken into custody. Now, this is the little boy that she killed. Cute little boy, only 3 years old. Ellis is known to the police department for prior offense of theft. So she's a known thief, but has never had any violent criminal history. So this definitely was a violent act. She apparently obtained a butcher knife or some kind of kitchen knife at the Volunteers of America thrift store next to the Giant Eagle. He added that cameras show Ellis walking out of the thrift store and into the Giant Eagle, where she spotted Wood and her son, proceeded to follow them out into the parking lot, and somewhere near the vehicle, she attacked them. So that's the little boy. Unfortunately, his life was taken, and that's Bianca Ellis, laughing and giggling and smiling and making an entire mockery of the justice system.
What possesses a person to do this and then smile about it?
Valerie says she's a psychopath. Now that I have an opinion about this, and I would love to hear your opinion about this, Sean, and anybody in the audience who wants to talk about this. The idea of not guilty due to insanity. Why are you not guilty due to insanity and not guilty due to insanity? I know that's good because my feeling is she's going to get off on this because she's going to get out of this because they're going to deem her insane. She has a history of mental illness. In fact, there's videos that are now circulating of what happened prior to her going to the thrift store, that she's literally in a wheelchair and she's walking around harassing cops and stuff like that. So there's other things of crazy things that this person has done. Nothing violent though, but I'm wondering if it's preparing her to get off as a reason of insanity.
I'm wondering if she knew this woman and her child, or if this was just a random.
They're saying it's a random thing because she has no relation to this woman and child. That's what they're saying. And I mean, even when you look at the video, if you want, I could find something to pull it up. She's wandering the grocery store and you can just see her. She's like going towards people. And then all of a sudden, you see her passing the woman and child or going right out the door. She turns around with the knife in hand and she follows them. And then just starts stabbing a 3-year-old little boy and stabbing the mother. Yeah, but here's the thing: do they still have mental hospitals anymore? I mean, now I know they have, like the mental hospitals are more like prisons, but
They
they don't
have
have.
short-term hospitals, to my knowledge. I don't know how many long-term facilities still exist. They don't have funding for stuff like that.
Right.
So she'll probably just be put in prison.
And part of me believes that they need to bring back mental hospitals. I really, I'm a proponent that mental hospitals need to come back. I
I am as well, but again, there's no funding for them. That's why so many mentally unstable people are out on the streets.
mental hospital is in jail. Yeah. But I mean, this is a horrific crime, and this case is going to be going on because she didn't even plead yet. This was only her pretrial where they're reading her charges against her. So, well, I'm sorry, she's pleading not guilty, and it's going to go to trial. But obviously, I don't think she's fit to be. I think that's what's going to happen is she's going to get out of it because of insanity.
I don't think so. I think she'll have to face some punishment for this. However, I'm just looking at her bond compared to the last case.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is one was successful and one was not, and those prices are
way different. Yes, absolutely. And the other thing also is, would this be considered a hate crime? Nobody, I mean, okay, I'm not trying to imply anything, but it's just interesting that this is a random act of violence.
Was it though? Because she went hunting through the store to find someone. So there was some sort of premeditation there. She didn't just
Right.
turn around and start stabbing out of nowhere.
And the fact that she took the knife from the store next door. So she was carrying that knife. And like I said, I really think that's where the misdemeanor charge is. And I don't want to get it wrong. I think she stole the knife from, but I don't know because we don't have information on that. But there is a misdemeanor charge in there. And that would make sense if she stole the knife where the misdemeanor charge came in. But it's so she has a knife in hand. She took it from the store next door. She's holding it around. She's walking around with it. And then she just turns and goes to the woman and child. I think, yes, that's the premeditation part to it. She planned on doing this.
It would be hard to argue that she didn't.
Yeah, I think I really, really believe that this is going to be a case, and you can see how cute he is. I mean, he's a cute little boy. I really believe this is a case you're going to hear more and more about. And
Definitely.
sadly, I don't think it's going to have a good turnout. I mean, I think whatever's going to happen, either she just rots in jail or they deem her mentally insane.
Well, the court of public opinion is going to demand that something happens, especially with a child that is as cute as that. The media is going to eat it up. It's going to be everywhere.
So very sad for the mother. And I mean, it's horrific. And the fact is, the mother is going to survive. Yes, she was stabbed as well. So she got stabbed multiple times. She was in the hospital as well. She's going to survive her injuries. This little boy did not survive his injuries. And there was even a statement from the father. The father was crying his eyes out in court, and yet Bianca was just cracking up laughing at him as he's trying to. And I think that's just disgusting. Like, how, as a parent, that you're facing the person who, I guess in this case, is accused of killing your child, and they're laughing at you. So I almost feel like justice is going to be served in different ways when this story. You're shaking your head no?
I disagree. How do you get justice for this? Even if she goes to jail, it's not going to bring the child back.
No, it's not.
But so how do you get justice in this situation?
You don't. And I almost want to say, is the fact of going to jail, is that enough punishment for horrific crimes? Because, okay, think about this. Let's just say she's homeless, she's out in the street, she has nowhere to live. Now she'll be a roof over her head, be fed. Possibly, if she wants to go to get a college degree, she could get a college degree, take a trade. I mean, sometimes prison is a better option than people's lives. And that's a horrible way to look at things. That prison could actually potentially be a better life for people than actually living their own life.
It's just a sad case.
I see you're holding your head, shaking your head. It's like, what did I get myself into with this girl?
That too.
Oh, that too.
There's a whole lot of depression in that last case.
No, and it's really is horrific. And like I said, with these type of cases, I'm searching headlines, news, and I can't believe that every day that I'm searching the news, there's a new case. There's a new, I mean, this show could have been so much longer. I'm just highlighting like 9 different cases, which I have a couple more cases to go. But it's like, when you look at how many cases and how many things, I almost feel like it's like, what is the world coming to? Why are so many things happening? Or has it been, things have always been this crazy and this depraved, only now with communication, with social media, with the information exchange of knowledge, that only now it's pointing out how horrific people actually are.
I think it's the second one. People have always been depraved, but we definitely get more of a spotlight on it now that we can, well, take pictures of it instantaneously on our phones, put it online. So, I don't know. People can be pretty terrible.
I'm going to skip the next case because you brought an interesting topic about taking pictures. And I'll go back to the next case after this because the other case I have is another grocery store event. But I want to go to this one just being to switch things up a little bit. But this is a tragic story. It is a story of a 19-year-old hiker who is taking videos of herself. She was hiking, she had her dog, and her camera captured the moment that she fell into the river and drowned. And when you hear stories like this happens a lot of times for the sake of social media. People will do some really dangerous stunts. There's lots of stories about this, of like people falling off cliffs, jumping off of high risers, getting into dangerous situations just for that perfect shot or just to be recorded and live on stream, and they end up passing away right on camera because they're trying to live their life through the camera as opposed to living their life. They're like sharing the moments with others. Now, in this particular case, hold on. She was holding her cell phone. Her name is Cynthia Ann Grimwood. She was 19 years old. She was holding her cell phone going into the river at Springfield. And around 3:00, other hikers found her stuff and her dog, because she was with her dog just wandering around. So they called police saying that they think somebody may be in the river because there's stuff here and there's a stray dog and there's nobody around. Well, when they called the police and the sheriff came down, they found her that she did fall into and she was found downstream. And it's a sad story. And I'm going to pull up a picture of her so you can see what she looks like. And this is all. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's a sad accident from the sounds of it.
Right.
I'm not sure that there's any.
So that's Cynthia Ann Grimwood. only 19 years old. They said that she was a second baseman in high school. She didn't graduate high school, so this was her final year. She was a senior in high school. She was a second baseman for the girls softball league, and that's all she was doing. She was hiking with her dog. She had her camera set up. She fell into the river and she recorded herself drowning. Now, I put this out there just to show that on an everyday basis, there are horrific things that happen. Who would it expect that something like this would happen? I mean, she didn't think she was going to pass away just setting up a camera and hiking on a beautiful scenic trail, but
No,
yet her life was tragically taken.
but this is just one more reason why you always go with someone else. You never go swimming alone.
And there's so many cases of people hiking alone and going missing. In fact, this ties into the famous missing 411 cases. And if anybody wants to read that, it's a whole interesting theory in regards to people disappearing at national parks. But in this case, they found her body. She did fall. They said that there was snow and that the slopes were very slippery, and that's why the river was at like high tide. I guess not high tide, but it was at a very rapid pace, and it just pulled her under. Swollen river. That's what it is. Swollen river. That's the term I'm looking for. Not high tide. But that's a very sad case. Now, going back to grocery stores, because you would think one grocery store case was enough, but guess what? We had a second grocery store case, and this one is in Alabama. I'm sorry, not Alabama, Arkansas. Arkansas. 4 killed, 9 wounded in a mass shooting outside Arkansas grocery store. And the grocery store happened to be named Mad Butcher. That was the name of the grocery store. I thought that was kind of interesting. But Mad Butcher grocery store. So let me get the facts about this case.
Well, that's some marketing for you.
Exactly. All right. So in this case, we have, here we go. 44-year-old Travis Eugene of Posey of New Edinburgh, Arkansas, has been arrested. The 4 people killed were identified as Shirley Taylor, 62, Kaylee Weems, 23, Roy Sturgis, age 50, and Ellen Strum, age 81, along with 2 officers and 7 other, 5 which were women, and 2 men ranging from ages 20 to 65, were injured in the shooting. And this is the man right here. And you can see all the bullet holes. They said that Posey started shooting in the parking lot of the grocery store, part of the mall shopping center, armed with a 12-gauge shotgun and a pistol. And the name, like I said, was the Mad Butcher grocery store. So basically, for whatever reason, and they have no motive. He never said what the motive is. He was in this case he was arrested, but they don't know what his motive is. Just a random act where he went around. The only thing that they noticed was he was aiming more for women as opposed to men. So, I mean, there were men. There was 2 men that were caught in the crossfire, but people were saying that he was specifically aiming for all the women in the stores.
Probably why he targeted a grocery store.
And I mean, statistically, yes, there's going to be more women in a grocery store than men. So maybe it may come to light that something happened. I mean, maybe he had a breakup, a divorce, something happened. We don't know. But the fact that he went on a murderous rampage. You are not safe anywhere. There's no reason to die. That's true. And I hate to say this, you're going to hear more and more stories about this. I mean, there's that strange theory that during election years, more and more crime happen for whatever reason, or is it just more and more reported?
Probably more reported.
But this is going to take a political standpoint on the whole Second Amendment issue, because you hear cases like these with mass shootings, where there's no rhyme or reason as to why they're just going around shooting people. And that's what this guy did at a grocery store. he opened fired. So, any thoughts, comments? What do you think?
Um, well, I'm going to agree with the concept that it seems like a targeted incident. It does seem like he was aiming for women based on area that he chose to shoot. The fact that he started in the parking lot with a shotgun and a pistol is bonkers. It's just sad.
It is.
He probably started with the what pistol first. Like, how would
It
you
does.
do that?
It doesn't necessarily say it. And I mean, even the what do you call it? When you look at that window, I mean, what did he have? I mean, it doesn't say he had like an automatic or anything like that, but that is a lot of holes going through the window. So what did he just constantly reloaded himself?
I don't know.
So
I'm guessing it didn't say how many shots were fired, but there were a lot of people dropped.
right. Yeah, 4 killed, 9 wounded, and then a whole mess of bullets sprayed everywhere. So
I'm thinking he was shooting at people in the parking lot, but that's hard to say. Just judging by the pictures we've got. Sad.
it is
So many
sad.
families are just torn apart by this guy.
Now the next story, slightly controversial story, subject matter, and the story is a transgender Utah woman shoots parents dead and told police that she would do it again. And this is the story of Mia Bailey. And let me pull up Mia Bailey. Okay, so now Mia Bailey was 28 years old. Um, lived in Utah. She openly transitioned and legally changed her name. And she's charged with 11 felony counts related to the double homicide of the parents, Joseph, age 70, and Gail Bailey, age 69. And she attempted the murder of her brother. It turns out her brother and the brother's wife was in the basement at the time, locked themselves in. So after she shot her parents, she went downstairs to try to shoot her brother and the wife as well, but because it was locked, she wasn't able to do it. Um, she told police that she had no remorse for her actions and that she would have not changed what she had done. She shot her father twice and her mother 4 times in the Utah home.
So a lot of rage against the mother.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And in a case like this, it almost makes me wonder, were her parents against the transition? Is that what started the rage against the parents? Because you have a transgender woman going from a transition, were her parents maybe not supportive of it, of the change or anything like that? But I'm curious as to why this case isn't getting more public. Like this is a case that, yes, you can read it in the news headlines, but considering with how popular transgenderism is right now, why this case isn't getting more publicity.
I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah.
I would also point out that transitioning is an expensive process. She's 28, so if she afforded that on her own, good for her. But
Well, this is another thing, and I mean that's a very good point. The hormone drugs. Obviously, when you're taking hormones, it is going to change. For lack of a better term, there is going to be side effects and possibly a mental imbalance. I mean, any type of drugs, when you listen to the side effects, they will, I mean, a lot of drugs will say that this may cause suicidal tendencies, this may cause this may cause that. And it makes you wonder that could that potentially have been a driving force as to why it turned so deadly, is that maybe the hormone she's using doesn't give her remorse for the act. It like stripped away her right and wrong mentality in cases like this.
I don't know. I'm really stuck looking at this whole shot the mother 4 times. It.
I mean, I've always
I can't blame drugs for that.
You can't blame. Yeah, and Valerie says sometimes side effects are worse than the disease itself. And a lot of times when it comes to taking drugs, this literally is a circular thing. You take a drug, it causes a side effect. So they're going to give you another drug to counteract that side effect. But then when you get that drug, it's going to cause another side effect. So they're going to give you another drug. And it's this endless loophole of constant medications to try to fix something when, I mean, it's hard to say.
But the person is still responsible for their actions.
And the fact is, she shows absolutely no remorse. She flat out told the police, I would gladly do this again.
That's pretty evil. Now, there may be circumstances we don't know about. Maybe the mother did something.
That's true. I mean, we don't know the circumstances. I mean, a lot of times cases like this, maybe the parents were abusive towards, and this is retaliation for the abuse. Maybe something happened. I mean, maybe they did not agree with the transition. I mean, there could be so many different reasons as to why there would be this type of.
Well, considering the age of the parents, I can see the transition maybe not going over so well. But at the same time, I can't condone that at all.
Right. So this just recently happened. It is going to be a case that is pending. And once again, it's one of those issues. How are they going to determine this? Is this going to be an insanity plea? Is this going to be... But we won't know until the case unfolds. And that's one of the things that I almost find difficult, is that we forget these cases because our judicial system takes so much time. I mean, that case with Bianca, she's not going to court until November for this. Her court date is set in November. That's a long time before it's going to be in the news again as far as what's happening and what's going on.
And then think of how long it's going to be tied up in court once it hits.
Correct.
You could have another case like the man with the magic penis from earlier.
Well, you know there's going to be cases like that. That's the problem, is there's cases every single day. And I think that's what's so sad about this, is that there are so many horrific crimes and cases that happen on a daily basis. A shooter at the library had nothing to do with the family, so I think it was the hormone drugs. So, okay, this one is a very sad story as well, and I have to be a little careful on the verbiage that I use on this one. I guarantee this is going to be a political story because this just happened. And the story is the story of Jocelyn Nungari. And let me get the information on her. All right. So Jocelyn Nungari, 12-year-old Houston girl. So this did happen in Texas. On June 17th, she did leave her house because she wanted to call her boyfriend. So she slipped out of her house, wanted to call her boyfriend. But she met up with these two men. She supposedly she doesn't know these two men. Franklin Jose Pena and Jose Martin Rangel. They are both illegal immigrants. And what ended up happening was they kidnapped her took her under a bridge in Houston, sexually assaulted her for hours on end, strangled her, and then threw her body in the river. So I'm going to show a picture of this. And like I said, this just happened on Monday, June 17th. So it is a case that you're going to be probably hearing a lot of, particularly with the political nature of this case. And let me pull that up. Okay, so she's only 12 years old. Now, like I said, supposedly there's no relationship between these two. At the time they lured her under the bridge, Franklin Jose Pena Ramos, who is 26 years old, was wearing his ICE ankle bracelet from the immigration customs. He was wearing his ICE anklet. So he was already in the system wearing an ankle monitor. So they have him going under the bridge, they being at the scene of the crime and everything like that. And they assaulted her for hours on end and then strangled her and threw her body in the river. And it's a sad story. It really is horrific that this happened to her. And like I said, I think it's going to be, particularly with the whole idea, and there she is, like I said, 12 years old, her birthday. She was a cellist. The two immigrants had been drinking all afternoon. They picked her up, probably asking for directions, and she was innocent. She walked off with them. They saw footage from a local store that showed how they lured her under the bridge near Houston Bayou, where they attacked her, strangled her, and dragged her body into the water. So they even have it on film from local stores. And it's
That's
one of those.
sick.
It is. And I mean, I know, I almost want to say a couple of the cases that I presented today were Texas, and that's simply because of local news. It pops up on local news. I made highlight of it, but it makes me wonder, in various other states, how many local news stories get buried where it's nothing more than a slight headline and don't get talked about.
I'm sure there's countless.
Mm-hmm. And it almost makes me feel like I should go state by state by state, looking at headlines and seeing what's going on. Because, like I said, this happened. And I just feel like with the whole political nature of this case, the fact that it's going to bring up the whole debate about whether there should be more immigration laws. Are our immigration laws at this time sufficient? Because this isn't the only case of a known illegal alien committing a horrific crime. There's another case in New York, and I can't remember the details on that. But what I'm trying to say is there's multiple cases pending right now of this happening. Hope they get. Well, Texas does have capital. What do you call it? Whereas
Death
if it's
penalty?
death penalty for capital murder, yes, Texas is one of those death penalty states.
Not only that, we have a fast track for it.
Oh yeah, they don't fool around here in Texas. And like I said, he was wearing an ankle monitor. So that means he already was in the system for whatever reason when this happened. So what was he doing out and about? And well, I can't even say that, but you know what I mean? It's like, it just goes to show you that ankle monitors mean nothing.
It just meant that he stayed within his radius. It didn't prevent him from doing anything.
Right. But they're on a crazy bond. Each bond is a $10 million bond, which they're not going anywhere to begin with. And it's almost as if with a story like this, because it is a younger child and the horrific nature of the crime, what's going to happen to them in prison?
Nothing good.
Right. I mean, there's
When the
almost
prisoners find out,
yeah.
that's a different kind of justice altogether.
So I think more to this case is definitely going to be coming to light. And particularly since it's going to bring that whole issue about immigration policies, our current immigration policies, and how you view them. But the question is, would this have happened if they would have been deported instead of just put an ankle monitor and sent on their way?
Probably wouldn't have happened to this child, but it may have happened to a different.
Exactly. So it's sad.
It's very sad. There's no almost there.
Yes, it is. Well, I'm not trying to, but it's a sad story. Which I guess it brings us to our final story. And I actually did a video on this, and this is the story of Havante Bryce. And let's bring up Havante Bryce. So the story with this is he went on a shooting rampage, stopping at 3 locations. He actually stopped at 4 locations, but he only shot people at 3 locations. So he killed his mom, his cousin, and his ex-girlfriend's new partner. Now his girlfriend's new partner, female. So it's 3 women that he killed. He also went to his sister's house, but for some reason his sister talked him out of not killing him. So he started off at the sister's house. Sister basically talked him out. Then he went over to the mom, went up to the mom, shot her in front of the boyfriend and 2 juveniles. Then left the mom's house, went to his cousin's house, who was having a barbecue, shot her while she was outside, then went to his ex-girlfriend's house, and then shot the girlfriend's lover. From there, the police finally caught up to him and then shot him dead. Because when the police caught to him, he got out of the car, started shooting at the deputies, and the deputies killed him instantly. So he went on. I mean, this was definitely planned. What makes it even sicker, which I don't have the information, it's actually in the video that I did, is he was live streaming this on Facebook. So he was giving updates on Facebook after each house that he went to, killing the people. So if you are a friend of his, or you could still look up his Facebook page, because I believe they didn't take it down, or they only took part of it down. He was live streaming updates to what was happening on Facebook. And he traveled to, so this was definitely, he just, from one to another. I mean, it wasn't even one location. He kept driving around to different locations to do what he wanted to do. This was somebody with a plan.
And a lot of hate for women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the fact that he did it in, like, his mom that he shot, hold on, I have the information. I just want to make sure if I put the information in here or in my video. Okay, so here's so he went to the Motel 6 in Brennington, where his mother, Tamisha Scott, the boyfriend, and 2 younger sisters were staying. He walked into the room, told his mother, "I'm sorry." She responded to what? And he shot and killed her. At 9:40, he went to Palmetto, where his cousin, 29 years old, Sequoia Bryce, had just been out of the cookout. She's getting into her vehicle. He shoots her. And then he goes to his ex-girlfriend's house, who lives with her new apartment, and shot and killed 31-year-old Charlotte Carter, which is the new girlfriend. And that's when later on, at around 1:30 in the morning, that's when the police got a hold of him and killed him instantly. Wow. So, I mean, in that case, okay, justice was served. But I find it interesting that even with this, like, they know he did this, they still have to say the alleged. Because it's almost as if, I mean, I know innocent until proven guilty, and because he's already dead, there is no court case to determine his innocent or guilt. But obviously, he's posting this on Facebook. He's going from there's witnesses. There's I mean, how could you like not say that he didn't do this? Or am
You
I
just,
wrong?
I don't know. I am curious how far behind him the cops were.
How far? Oh, you mean as far as well, because yeah, it was 10 o'clock that he did the last shooting. He was still driving around. It wasn't until 1:30 in the morning that they caught up with him.
Right, but he's on his phone posting this stuff. So if he's broadcasting his location, the gun isn't exactly quiet.
Yeah. Oh, he was
So
just, I'm sorry, he was just doing status updates. That's what I meant by live. He wasn't doing live video. He was doing status updates.
it's
Um,
still gonna broadcast his location every time he does that.
so Valerie says a very angry man that blamed other people for his miserable life. Very possibility. I mean, he went after his family, his ex-girlfriend. The only people that he left there were his sister that talked him out of it at first. He let the boyfriend and the two younger sisters, he let them free, and he left his ex-girlfriend free because he only killed the new partner. He didn't kill the ex-girlfriend.
I wonder if they sided against him during the
Maybe,
breakup or something.
possibly, but it's these. I mean, I guess do you call it a crime of passion, where you're so angry with the person that you love that you just cross over that love then becomes hate and rage, and that's why you
It would be a crime of passion if it occurred in one location. The fact that he drove to several locations to keep committing these crimes,
yeah.
that's beyond. That's obvious premeditation.
And his justice was in the end he's not getting a trial, he's not getting anything because he started shooting at the police and they put him out at that point. And it's sad. So now the question is, we've done 9 stories. And this happens to be, like I said, our very first podcast, our very first talk show. And thoughts, Sean? What do you think? We want
Um,
to ask the audience as well because there are a couple of people who are lurking in the background. Welcome to the show. What do you think? Is this something that you would like to see more of? I do know that probably people will be watching the after effects of this the replay of the show. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification to be informed the next time we are live. But what are your thoughts, Sean? Any final thoughts?
um, my heart goes out to all the families that were affected by these crimes. I'm glad that we get to bring some light to them, but this also reminds me why I stopped covering true crime to begin with, because it's depressing as heck.
Aww.
But
See, now I feel bad. Yes, Sean used to do true crime constantly and he stopped it. And I was trying to delve different ideas on topics on we can do. I will say he was the one that chose the true crime.
I was.
He was the one that chose because I had other ideas. But we want to
We
see.
tried other things and people didn't respond.
Yeah. So we want to see how people respond to this type of show. If this is a show that you wish us to continue, if it's something you would like to see more of, we definitely would love to see comments below. We do stress that a lot of this stuff is controversial. It could be disturbing. It'll tug at the heartstrings. I mean, this is tragic atrocities that happen in the human psyche. I mean, we said that in the introduction that this is how disturbing people could be, and The sad part is, if we keep doing these shows, it just shows that more and more stories are coming out. And that's what makes it even sadder.
But we want to thank you guys for watching.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much. We hope everyone has a great evening. Stay safe. Stay close with others. I mean, appreciate your life, because at any moment it could take a turn for the worse for reasons that you never knew or can't even imagine. Because the fact is, there are horrors and atrocities that happen on a day-to-day basis. And we don't want you to be the next storyline or headline.
So true.
Anything else you would like to say, or shall we close it here?
I think this is a good point to close it. Thanks you everyone
Okay.
again for joining.
And
And-
just the last thing, if anybody has noticed, down at the bottom, we are sponsored by Dubby Energy Drinks. In fact, I had, if you saw my little Dubby drink, they are really tasty drinks. We're offering a 10% discount to anybody who uses the code Maledictus. Maledictus is our horror podcast that we do promote on Spotify. And every Friday we'll have a new episode. And now we're doing original episodes. So if you haven't seen the episodes, check the links in the description for more information. And I think we will end it here. So everyone, have a great night. Stay safe and good luck.
Thank you guys. Take care. Hi, Susie.